So this video is being recorded January 12th, 2026, and Tara Erica is doing the recording and asking the interview questions. And today we are interviewing Bill Broadley. So welcome. Thank you for coming.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, so if we could start, maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself and your own personal history before you became a teacher.
Oh, well, I grew up in Victoria. I was born in Calgary, but my parents had the wisdom to move here.
Nice.
At the end of the Depression, so I grew up in South Fairfield, just a block from the water.
Okay.
By Ross Bay.
Yeah.
And at that time there was an army camp, so
wow.
we would have, that was a Clover Point, the army camp. And then
This was the 30s?
1940s, during
40s,
the war.
okay,
Yeah,
during
there were
the war.
searchlight emplacements at the end of the Clover Point.
Okay.
They finally got rid of them years and years later.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the activities we wouldn't do too often, but we try to sneak past the barbed wire at the army camp and then crawl across the point to the other side. And then Moss Rocks was a big feature because then it wasn't as developed as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And the streetcars went along nearby. And I lived in an apartment, a one-bedroom apartment with my brother or sister and mother and father who was in the army, so he was off and away. And I guess then I went to Sir James Douglas Central and Vic High.
Yeah.
And first did the tech program there, but the problem with it, we started an hour early because we still did the academic part. And so the second year I didn't do that. And at Vic High, we had a nice, Vic High's a great school.
When did it switch from a normal school?
No, it was
to
never a
being,
normal school.
Oh, I thought it was.
No, it was Vic College. Like
Okay,
the
Vic
labs
College.
in Vic High were the ones that were set up for Victoria College before it moved to Craigdarroch Castle.
Ah.
Yeah. So Vic High, well, that was the year they began building the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And Laurie Wallace was a teacher there, a counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of mine, Jim Cowie, we had a spare period, so we would sit in his office. Our job was to keep the athletic records up to date.
Oh, yeah.
But that took 5 or 10 minutes. And we'd chat with Laurie Wallace, who later went on to become things like Deputy Provincial Secretary and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was writing a high school news for at that time, the Victoria Daily Times. The Colonist had one that was a little different. They had a separate reporter from each school, and they would write something and take it to a school sponsor.
Really? Student reporters?
Yeah.
And then they would publish
and
it?
So I was a long time, I used to sell newspapers on the street corner downtown, and then had a paper route in South Fairfield.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked the managing editor, or the circulation manager, why the Times did not have a similar thing. He said, well, why don't you talk to the managing editor? And he arranged it for me. And the managing editor, who was Archie Wills, who was a well-known local Victorian at the time, and he said, well, if you can get the information, we'll print it. So I hopped on my bike, rode out to Esquimalt High. There were only 5 high schools.
Mm-hmm.
And met with the principal and vice principal, and sort of asked, about getting started. And they said, oh, no, we can't do that. You'll have to speak to the superintendent. So back on my bike up to Craigdarroch Castle, where the school board office was, and met with the superintendent for a few minutes, and he said no. So I went back to the Times, which was then at the corner of Broad and Fort, and said, they won't let me do it.
The school board office was at Craigdarroch Castle?
Yeah.
Wow.
And, yep. And then Archie Wills said, well, if you can get the information, we'll print it anyway.
Hmm.
So I figured I could figure a way around that. So I found out who the people were who got the information for the Colonist. Mm-hmm. And I would phone them Thursday nights and find out what they're writing, plus anything else that their sponsor didn't let them say.
Yeah.
And I would take it down to the Times on, maybe it was maybe I did it before Thursday. Anyway, either Thursday or Friday I took it the Times,
Mm-hmm.
and they would print it. The only embarrassment was nobody knew I was doing it at first, and the byline was Stu Dent, which lasted about 2 weeks.
That's funny.
And after that, there was no byline, which was much better.
So was this the late 40s then, after the war had ended? Or?
This was in 50,
Or early
I graduated in
50s.
51.
Okay.
Yeah,
So late 40s.
so this
early
was
50s.
51.
Okay.
And so the people I got the information from were great, and they had no problem telling me. But I didn't have to take it to a school sponsor or anything. But then one week, I don't know if you know about the late Walter Young. He was a political scientist. UVic unfortunately died early, but he was the Oak Bay person I contacted. And he said, "I'm sorry, Bill, I'm not supposed to speak to you this week." And the reason is, one of the schools, at that time, buzzes were done by hand for lunch and fire alarms and everything.
Okay.
And the person who pushed the buzzer for lunch or recess at Mount Doug had pushed the wrong button, the fire alarm one instead of the lunch one. And it made a little item for the newspaper, which the principal was all upset about because he was embarrassed, I guess. Anyway, that's why they weren't supposed to talk to me, but they did anyway, so it didn't interfere with what I did. So anyway, I continued doing that to get into the news business. And then I decided not to do that because some of the people, one of the guys I worked with, a well-experienced rewrite guy, suggested it wasn't a great way to go as for our career because that was based on his experience. And, a lot of them were heavy drinkers and everything, and it wasn't that appealing. And I was after college by then, and I did work at during the summer at the Times. It was still separate then, and enjoyed that. Did sports, did actually for radio too. Yeah, that was sort of fun. Hugh Curtis, who was later finance minister, but he was in radio after he graduated from high school, and he had a program like maybe Youth Wants to Know or something like that, and there were a few of us from high school who got on. I don't know if anyone listened to it, but we had fun.
Nice.
And did that for a year. That was, I guess, after I was in high school.
So did you go to college here in
And
Victoria?
then 2 years at Vic College, yeah.
Okay.
While I was there, I edited I edited the Tower. There was an annual at that time. The first year, and the second year I edited the Martlet. And that caused some problem because the college was there under the sort of domination, well, that's the wrong word. It was sort of like a sublet of the normal school.
Okay.
In the normal school building. And so to use any room for like a meeting or anything, you had to have the permission of the normal school principal. And sometimes you didn't get it. And so I forget what the issue was. I just remember one of the persons who wrote the story, and then I added to it as the editor that fouled it up. And I put the headline on, "Ho-hum normal school complains again." And that did not go over well. Unfortunately, I was planning to go to normal school next year. But anyway, during the summer, I worked on the Princess boats between Victoria and Vancouver, the midnight boat. And I had to go for an interview with the principal of normal school during one of those summer stayovers in Victoria. And it all worked out well.
So you got in anyway.
I got in, did well. I actually got a BCTF award.
Oh,
The
really?
Max Cameron medal.
You got the Max Cameron. My partner got that as well.
Yeah.
How long was normal school at that time?
Just
How
a
many
year.
years? Just 1 year?
Yeah,
Oh,
so-
okay.
But I mean, you go there right from high school with a year of normal school and get a teaching certificate. It was a temporary one, but I had 2 years of college by then, so that helped.
Mm-hmm.
And then, fortunately, my first job was in Victoria.
So you got right away into
Which was unusual, actually.
Greater Victoria School District.
It was just when Victoria was having to hire people right out of teacher training.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, you had to go out to some rural area usually, and then work your way back into the big city.
Okay.
And so quite a few people from that normal school class were hired in Victoria.
But I would think in the 50s there was kind of population was growing, and the suburbs were growing, you know, all those houses in Gordon Head, and
they needed them. Yeah. So as it happened, my first school was the one I went to school.
Oh, really?
Sir James Douglas.
Okay.
And then when Colquitt's opened, I applied for it and got there, even though I didn't have the total secondary certificate I just had. So worked away at summer schools and finally got a degree. Taught at Colquitt's for 10 years. Taught everything. Really enjoyed history, current events.
So what was your connection with the GVTA and the union? Did you go to general meetings once a year, or?
Well, there were some, at Colquitt's there were some active people there who were on the executive. And I guess I've always been a political person. So that's how I got involved to the GVTA, because they were, and they encouraged a few people to be involved. It was very young staff at the time. I guess the principal was the only old person, well, maybe the vice principal. Anyway, yeah, so I was Colquitt's for 10 years, and at the end of the 10 years, I went over to UBC to finish a degree. I came back to Reynolds. Had some disagreements with the principal.
No, principals were in the union at that time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Went to Mount View.
How did that work, being
It was good.
in the union, and when you would have a dispute with them? Was there any way would the union ever help resolve those disputes? I mean, now, like, if we have a teacher-teacher dispute, we have mediation services.
Personally, I thought it was better that they were in. A lot of people in the lower mainland had a different point of view, especially in Surrey, because the principals, well, there's a sort of two threads of the story. One is who was in charge, and should elected people, like through the Surrey Teachers or Greater Victoria Teachers Association, principals could dominate. But some principals didn't like the idea that teachers would do things that they didn't like. And that was more so in, I think, a place like Surrey than Victoria, depending on how far left or right you were. And the other issue was, out of the famous Chicago school, I'm not sure it was all, what's his name, the economist.
Oh, like Milton Friedman? Is that what
Yes.
you're getting at? Okay, yeah.
But this was management. And I forget the names of the guys, but they were into management in schools.
Okay.
And so the idea that principals were managers then became predominant instead of being principal teachers.
Right. And so when do you think that happened?
Well, it happened in BC. Well, it happened during the 50s and 60s. I mean, the Victoria School Board had a sort of a commission. The UBC guy was involved, but he was trained at the University of Chicago on this stuff.
Okay.
And they brought this idea of administration as opposed to teaching. And that's what I think dominates now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm far removed from it, but I think when it was a principal teacher, it was quite different.
Right. Now, when it was a principal teacher, though, that person would be hired by the school district, not elected by their staff, I assume.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like the Walter Young I mentioned, he was giving just reading, clearing out my files, where he was speaking to a bunch of teachers, and one of the things he suggested is a school where they allow for 4 years the staff to determine who the principal is. But it's gone the other way. It's management, you see.
Because that's how a university department would work, right? The department heads
More
usually
so.
chosen by the faculty, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's more collegial. Yeah.
Although a lot of politics can
Yeah.
get involved
Yeah.
there too.
Yeah. So when did you first get involved with the GVTA executive?
When I was at Colquitt's.
At Colquitt's.
Yep. So
yeah.
that would be in the Colquitt's opened in '56. I was there 10 years. So
Okay.
yeah.
During
So I
that
was
time.
involved then, and then I went to UBC and sort of fell out a bit because I guess I wasn't active for a while, or I went to meetings but not active. And then I got back in. Tell you the truth, I'm not sure.
Can I just ask another question? What did bargaining look like? I know there were some salary scale negotiations.
So you did it locally.
Yeah, so how would was that the whole executive would meet with the school district, or would
No.
you have a bargaining team? What was
We
that?
had a bargaining chairperson.
Okay.
His wife was a teacher. He was a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Johansson. And he became a lawyer later.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He,
Seems like a natural pathway. Yep.
but he was the bargaining chairperson while I was president.
Mm-hmm.
But they would get advice and help from the BCTF. But all the bargaining was done locally and with support from BCTF staff. But they did the bargaining. Not the staff, the local person.
Right.
And sometimes the problem was, like one of the things I was just reading is, in fact, it's in one of those, I think,
Okay.
that the board would hire a person from the BCSTA to do their bargaining.
Oh, okay.
And our argument was we wanted to bargain with the board. Because we were bargaining with our people.
Nice.
So that totally changed when it went to provincial bargaining.
Yeah, it did.
For years we were opposed to provincial bargaining. And some trustees would argue because you use one against the other.
Can I just ask another question? Back in those early days in the 60s, was there an attempt to broaden the scope of what you bargained beyond?
It went for quite a long time, yeah, especially with respect to learning conditions. And some districts got a voluntary agreement with their local board, but they couldn't enforce it.
Right.
I think the Sunshine Coast was one of those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they would get essentially a learning conditions agreement, but essentially non-enforceable. But it's still, the intent was there, and they would do their best to try to, the board would try their best to comply with it. But if the money wasn't there, they couldn't do it.
So the salary scale agreements, you could go to the Labor Relations Board? Would that be your...
No,
what was the remedy?
I'm not sure. When I was involved, they would appoint an arbitrator.
Appointed arbitrator,
And
okay.
the arbitrator would determine what the salary scale was for teachers in Victoria.
Okay.
And they would do the same thing in other districts. So you didn't know who, well, I guess there were a few people who were arbitrators, but essentially they drew a line down the middle, I think. Yeah, so teachers didn't like arbitration, but sometimes it was better than dealing with the board.
Right. Did you ever experience a strike between when you were a student up till the local bargaining years, like of '88?
No, there were no strikes.
No strikes, okay.
No, the first strike was the pension one in, was it 72?
Right,
somewhere
okay,
there.
yeah. And that was provincial.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
that's when it was still a SOCRA government, and I can't remember the year of the strike. Like, I was first elected to the BCTF executive in '72, and that'd be 2 years after I was BCTF or GVTA president, because I finished in 1970. And the person who actually succeeded me was principal, Les Isaacson.
Okay. How many years were you GVTA president?
One.
Oh, just one. And was that the standard? People would do 1 year and...
Yeah.
Oh,
A lot of
okay.
people encouraged me to run again, but I had recommended that the president's position be half-time release.
Yeah.
And no way was I going to run having recommended that.
I see. Okay.
It just seemed wrong.
Yep. Well, totally.
And so I didn't do it.
Yeah. So everything was volunteer up till then, and then did that go through? So from 1970 onward, then there
Well,
was...
I'm not sure when it became full-time.
Right.
But it was half-time for at least 1 year.
Right, and that was the only released person.
Yep.
And there was...
Well, there was a secretary.
A secretary,
in the office.
so
It was a full-time.
one administrative position, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
That was it.
Right. Were you aware? So I mean, of course, there was the strike in 1919. Are you aware if there was ever any job action between then and when? I mean, I know it's
I don't
before
think
your
so.
time, but I'm just curious. Not that you're...
In Langley, there was some.
There was, that's right, in New Westminster, I think. So
Yeah, I can't remember. I wasn't around.
No, of course not. Just it would have
But
been...
when a woman teacher who retired here, I don't know whether it was I was at a retired teachers thing, like honoring them, like the dinner. And she said she was one of those Langley teachers.
Oh, is that right? Oh, okay.
That's
Interesting.
quite a few years ago now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I am aware there were periodic actions in a few other locals. I was just wondering if there had been anything here. We haven't found anything by looking through the old
don't think
newspapers,
so.
so yeah.
But then they were separate. I mean, Saanich, Esquimalt, Victoria.
Yeah, now do you remember, did people talk about the amalgamation? Because that happened in 1938. So do you have any memory of
was it
people
then?
discussing that? Yeah, Hugh Creelman was the first president of the Greater Victoria Teachers Association.
Yeah. Yeah, the name, was he a BCTF president as well?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah,
Nor am I.
yeah. They did put his picture in the Daily Colonist.
Yeah. Sure.
But, okay. So you were at the, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, the Colonist was a sort of conservative paper, and the Times was a liberal paper.
Right, okay. You were at the BCTF then from 1970 until?
1972 to, well, 4 years, to
Okay.
77, I think.
Oh,
when I came back.
72 to 77, okay,
Some
yeah.
of that doesn't seem like 4 years.
Okay,
I think
but
it is.
around that time, that's fine.
I guess it's going from spring, or from fall to spring.
Right, and did you have different positions on the BCTF executive?
I was a member at large first.
Okay, and then
I
became a
was
vice president?
First vice president and president,
Okay.
which was an unusual move actually at the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The left-wing people were upset because you would not understand. You would understand this. They were upset because the guy I beat, Gary Onstad, he was quite upset that he lost because he'd been on the executive. He was a Burnaby teacher.
Okay.
Really nice guy, but upset that I beat him. And Jim McFarland was the president when I was vice president.
Okay.
But I never was second vice president. As a whole bunch of people
Right, you moved straight in.
said
Okay.
second vice president was sort of a dead end.
Oh,
Because
really?
a lot of people who were second vice president
Interesting.
never moved any further.
Yeah,
I think it's changed since then, but
yeah.
it's a very
It's
hierarchical
very
system now.
kind of rote that everyone moves up the ladder
No,
one by one.
In my day, it wasn't. Let's see.
And was there sort of a common understanding about a 2-year term limit at that time?
No.
No.
It was Jim McFarland, despite his left-wing politics, he had a lot of good well, he still has a lot of good common sense. And he convinced Adam Robertson to run again instead of himself, because he figured if he was elected, he would cause a lot of disunity amongst the teachers because of his left-wing views. Well, he's a Marxist. And so he convinced Adam Robertson to run again. And then got the right order.
Right, you were at
No,
UBC
No, Jim Killeen was the first one to run for 2 years, I think.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it had been just 1 year
Yeah,
was the
yep.
common, right? Were things, you were at UBC from 70 to 72, so that's, I know SFU, the campus was very political in that period of time. There was a,
No, I wasn't at UBC then. I was,
oh, I thought you said you went back to do your
that was
degree.
in 67.
67, okay.
And then I was there a year, came back to Reynolds.
Came back to Reynolds and then went, okay. Right.
Yeah. And then somewhere along, it was, I'm sure if it was 70 or 71. Well, members at large on the executive are 1 year terms.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I was first elected in 71.
Okay.
And then next year, people always persuaded me to do these. I was never tried to get them.
Not ambitious yourself.
I didn't think so, but my wife wouldn't think the same. But I know some people came when I was at Mount View. I know one guy who was from Vancouver, actually secondary, not Vesta, came over to persuade me to run for vice president. And so I did, and I did win. And then next year, I ran for president, lost to Jim McFarland. And then the next year I ran and won. And the next year I ran again and won.
So during that time, that was around the time of the pension strike. Were pensions the big issue? Was that?
The pension strike was at the beginning of it all.
Okay.
That's when pensions began to improve. In fact, they're very good now. In fact, I served on the pensions committee when I was on the executive.
Oh, is that right?
So
okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure it was the pensions committee, but anyway, we'd meet with the pensions commissioner, with BCTF staff, and I was the person from the BCTF executive who was there. So yeah, that turned out quite well actually. And we meet with the what's the guy called who does the auditing? I guess the auditor. Yeah, that was fascinating. And they always did a good job in making sure it was well funded. And at first, it was under the first NDP government when Ernie, lost his last name, was the minister in charge. Oh, he's a big heavy guy.
This was Dave Barrett's government?
Dave Barrett's government, yeah.
Okay.
And they agreed to put the cost of living in the pension fund. And at that time, and I don't have the exact numbers, but it was when the inflation rate was up in the high teens or early 20s, and it was going to really reduce pensions for everybody if they didn't do something. So it was separated. And the teachers bought into the idea that it's got to be separated to protect the main pension. And that's why you see a separate one now. And so far, it's always been paid. But each year, it's a separate decision.
That's right. Yeah, it's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why, because when it was guaranteed,
Right, I see.
became almost a disaster with the money that was going out to pay
Right,
the CPI.
interesting. Right, okay.
So that was nothing to do with the GVTA, but it
Yeah.
I was involved, and then I stayed on the rep assembly for years.
So I guess the BCTF was really more, did more political lobbying work as opposed to,
Oh, quite a bit.
because you weren't bargaining, so,
Well, you tried to change the rules so you could bargain these other working conditions, but
right.
many governments weren't prepared to do it. And then there was a big one-day strike by Surrey teachers who marched on the lawn. I was a vice president of the BCTF then, and to the best of my memory, while the Surrey teachers were on the lawn, and a past president of the BCTF, Wes Jansen, was with them. He was a teacher, or I guess by then an administrator in Surrey, and a longtime NDP guy, and very upset because of what the NDP were doing in financing education. And so Eileen Daly was the Minister of Education, and Dave Barrett was Premier. And they waved to Jim McFarland out the window to come and talk to him.
Mm.
So he went in, and they agreed to provide a big improvement in numbers of teachers.
Oh, interesting.
At the time, I don't think they realized how much it would cost them.
Right.
So it never did get finalized, but they had to find a whole bunch of teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were trying to recruit people who had been teachers to come back,
Mm-hmm.
and they provided some special in-service for them in that.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether it lasted 1 or 2 years, but
Mm-hmm.
it became very difficult to maintain.
So at the end in 77 then, you went from president of the BCTF, you came back to Victoria?
Teach, yeah.
To teach, yeah. And were you involved with the GVTA then, or just?
Yeah, I was a member of the Rep Assembly
Okay,
for quite a few years from the
okay,
GVTA, yeah.
okay,
So I was on the executive for quite a long time
Okay.
in the GVTA.
yeah.
Not sure, I probably ended sometime in the middle of the College of Teachers time when I was on it.
Okay,
It was taking too much time, and it was a bit frustrating. I'd spend a lot of my time in teaching, trying to get so that teachers had control of the profession.
mm-hmm,
And the BC Teachers College of Teachers gave us that.
mm,
But some could not separate the union function
mm-hmm,
from the professional standards function.
mm-hmm,
They didn't think you could do both. I believe you can, but anyway, I lost. And it seemed to me, and I was at a math conference in
You thought the college should be part of the BCTF,
No,
or?
I wouldn't mind if it was, but there was no problem with being separate. I mean, nurses have been separate for years by their decision.
Mm-hmm.
And when the original legislation was brought in, they had a special RA in Victoria,
Okay,
and they decided to oppose whatever the bill number was,
mm-hmm.
somewhere around the teens it was. And
About creating the college.
yeah, about separating and giving teachers the right to have a union
Mm-hmm.
or a separate organization.
Right,
And-
okay.
And there was a concern that some local associations wouldn't go the union route.
Mm-hmm.
And as it turned out, none did, but there was a concern that might happen. Whereas, as I said, I was not at that RA.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I would have agreed with the decision. I would have, I think, argued against it if I was there, because it seemed to me the legislation was giving everything we wanted.
Mm. This is in 87, is this?
I think so, yeah.
Right, okay.
And it was giving teachers bargaining rights,
Mm-hmm.
and it did allow some to do it differently, but all you had to do was convince them, and in the end, that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And having a separate organization, they argued, the people who opposed it said, well, it's taking the professional activities away from the BCTF. It didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It allowed the college to do it, but didn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, we eventually got rid of it at the college.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just this belief that you can't do both.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can,
Mm-hmm.
with the same membership, but with a separate organization.
Mm-hmm.
You can be loyal to the union
Mm-hmm.
and loyal to the profession.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons the college didn't make it in the end is because some of the people elected from the profession seemed to believe their job on the college was to protect the teacher, rather than saying, you misbehaved,
Mm-hmm.
so you don't have a certificate. Now, I don't know the details of it, but I just know that was the argument, because I saw the documentation about it with people elected who's, I mean, they had acted on behalf of the same person as a president of a local,
Mm-hmm.
defending them against a school trustee, school board action.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the college, we're taking the same position.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed to me you should absent yourself from decision making because you've been involved.
Mm-hmm.
But these days, it seems we have the model of the U.S. to follow, and anything goes.
Well, I mean, in the end, teachers now really don't have that much influence on the teacher regulation branch.
No,
I mean, some, but not that much.
they did have.
Yeah. What was happening What was happening locally? Were people, so I guess that in 1987, when everyone had to sign cards again after that legislation. So how did that go in Victoria?
I don't think it was a problem.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't have the numbers, but I don't recall any strong evidence otherwise. Places like Summerlin were a place that the BCTF was worried about.
Okay.
Even they did.
Yeah, in the end. Yeah, interesting. And so did that change the GVTA at all? Did we change our structure to adapt to the new bargaining reality, or?
I'm not sure how it worked.
Oh, okay.
I was never involved in bargaining very much.
Oh, is that right?
I was
Okay.
more into professional development.
Got it. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, that's how I started actually as PD
Right.
chairperson.
Right. Now we have a PD person though on our bargaining team, which I assume goes all the way back to those days. You never served in that position though? No.
No, it was just elected separately.
Right. Okay.
The bargaining committee.
Right.
Yep.
So during the 88, 90, 92 local bargaining rounds though, did you play a role in as an executive member, like helping organize strike readiness or any of that sort of
I was
work?
involved with strike stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a letter saying I can cross picket lines. Authorized by the GVTA, I think. This was when there was a strike. I forget. I think myself, maybe Trevor Calkins, I'm not sure who else. There were 3 names on the list anyway.
Oh, really?
Yep.
For what purpose?
Going out to talk to people.
Okay.
If they were still, because not everybody
If they
was
were
on
in.
strike.
Okay.
Well, not everybody was outside the school.
Mm.
So you'd have to cross a picket line to get in.
To talk to them, to convince them to come out.
Something like that.
Yeah? Was it effective?
I don't know.
Oh. You were authorized, but you never did it.
I don't remember.
Oh.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Were there a lot of people who stayed in?
I think sometimes, I don't know. But
Oh, okay.
it depends on school, sometimes by the influence of an administrator or something. Sometimes, one person on staff has a strong point of view and is respected by the staff members. So they go along with it. But I really don't remember. I was by then, well, I've had a lot of different interesting things. Like when I was at Colquitt's in the last year I was there, I got very interested in math education. That was when the so-called new math was around. And there was an article in the Teacher magazine, and I communicated with the guy who wrote it, who was from the University of Illinois, but was at UBC. And he said, well, maybe we can find something for you to go and take this seminar. So there was one at Western Washington University in Bellingham. So I spent the summer commuting back and forth to Bellingham to take this program. And you just went through, like, they wouldn't sell you the books unless you had taken the course on how to teach it. And so at Colquitt's, I hadn't left Colquitt's because I was there, and the principal agreed to pony up the money to buy the books. And so we did, and then I had to write to school district and say, we have permission to use this book instead. And I was told, no.
Oh,
I had
really?
a lot of no's I had.
Interesting.
And
So that was before we had a professional autonomy clause in the collective agreement, I guess.
yes, there was no such thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I forget what Harry D's position was at the time, but he came out to the school and he said, well, they are going to revise the math curriculum, so, it'll be okay. And I said, I'll be the same old people to do it. Well, within a day or two, I had a phone call.
Oh, inviting you. Okay.
On the revision committee.
That's good.
So that surprised me. Anyway, and so I did get the books, and I did teach it. And some of the people in the course, when they got to UVic, they said, the stuff I'm doing first year is what we did in grade 9.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was quite fascinating. So then I got very involved in math ed, and so, as I mentioned, during that RA, it was a math conference in Anaheim in California. And I guess I spent some of my own money, but it had a lot of PD money from the school district to go to conferences
Oh, really? Oh,
for math.
interesting.
Like, yeah, Seattle, Anaheim, New Orleans, Chicago. Yeah,
Well, that's sure changed.
you learn a lot. Well,
There's not much funding for that anymore.
Well, there wasn't a lot then, but somehow I managed to get some. Yeah, and then later, well, it happened. I was like, as the past president of the BCTF, I was also on the board of directors of the Canadian Teachers Federation.
Oh, okay.
And then they would send delegates to the annual meeting of what was then the World Confederation of Organizations of the Teaching Profession, which no longer exists. And
is that Education International now?
that's the successor.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And it would hold, the first one was in Berlin, I think, when the wall was still there.
Yeah.
So that was a fascinating experience to be there. And we would do a tour of, not just go to the conference. And I learned then that hotel telephone calls are very expensive.
That's right.
When I went down to pay the bill
Yeah.
for a phone call I'd taken back to the BCTF, and I said, "Oh, they got the decimal in the wrong place."
Oh, no.
Anyway, I did not have the heart to charge it to the BCTF. I figured out what BCTEL would charge for the call and charged them that amount. It was a huge amount. Anyway,
So what year did you retire?
from teaching? 1994.
94. Okay, so just before provincial bargaining came in. Right.
And I was planning to teach another 5 years, but I was only 60 at the time. But my wife was a teacher, and it was complicated because she was determined she was going to retire. And then our one daughter, lived overseas, and her husband worked for the Asian Development Bank as an economist. And they had been in Pakistan for 3 years, and it was the last year they were going to be there. And so they invited us to come for a long time. And so I thought, well, I'll get an unpaid leave of absence from the Greater Victoria School District and go. And then and it was getting tight in terms of prep time. It was getting less each year. And the things in schools were getting worse. And then I realized I'd already been teaching 40 years. I was eligible for a full pension. This is sort of a stupid financial decision. So I retired before I really wanted to.
Okay.
And then we took off to Pakistan in September. I was still on the college council, but you could do that by email. And that was a fascinating trip because at that time Air Canada had a direct flight from here, Vancouver, to Delhi. And by using a lot of points, I was able to, we were in business.
So you never went back on the TOC list afterwards?
I didn't believe in it.
Okay.
There were a lot of people who needed jobs.
Okay.
I've never understood my friends who do that.
Well, right now we have a teacher shortage, so they kind of need people, but a little bit of a different
Well, that's
time.
a little different if that's the case.
Yeah.
Because when I was a teacher, most people who were on the teacher on call list were recently retired people who were housewives to be. That's usually who came to sub. Yeah.
Yeah. So that must have been a change over your teaching career, is the role of women in the union. Is that something you saw? I know most of the people you mentioned were...
Yeah, one of the things in there says all male executive elected.
Exactly, yeah.
No.
Do you remember things about that change coming about?
Well, there was she was from Campbell River, I think, Dorothy Glass. She later changed her last name. She was quite involved in the status of women. And then you may know some of the more recent, well, they're still closer to my age. But, what's her name? Linda Shudo?
Okay, yeah, at the provincial level, yeah.
Yeah, and they were on the Status of Women Committee at the BCTF.
Mm-hmm.
And they eventually sort of shunned Dorothy, even though she's the one who led the way.
Interesting.
But it unfortunately, and this is where it becomes political,
Mm-hmm.
When I was first on the executive, whoever was around on the executive, we'd go for dinner together. Didn't matter whether you were left, right, or anything.
Mm-hmm.
We'd go to have a nice dinner and have fun chatting and arguing with each other and that. And then it came, so it got more, well, Teacher Viewpoint got formed as a way of fighting people like me.
Mm-hmm.
And one example is a member of the executive at lunchtime during an RA meeting saw two members with a different point of view than her. And she said, "Oh, where are we going for lunch, guys?" And they said, "We don't know where you're going, but we're going here." And that isn't the way to run an organization, I don't think. But some people think you got to have you're on our side or on the other side. Whereas, well, I think in some of those letters, some of those things, I've said that there in those newsletters. And it's a different world.
Yeah. Now, there was another caucus as well, Teachers for United Federation. Were you ever involved with them?
More so.
Okay. Yeah.
It was one that started as a counter to the
Viewpoint. Yeah. Did they have meetings in Victoria? Like, did that exist locally, or was it always at BCTF events?
At the provincial level.
At the provincial level, okay.
More so, maybe in the Lower Mainland, they had meetings. Yeah, in fact, when I was digging, these were in the file drawer, looking at other stuff that I was getting rid of today, yesterday, I should say. I did find a tough newsletter.
Oh, okay.
And it had people that were nominated. One was Ray Worley for president, and I forget who else. Debbie Gregg was one. She never ran for the executive, but she was involved with Tough. I don't know if you know her.
I don't know. No.
She was on the college council first. See, on the college council, we had people from all sorts of the spectrum in terms of politics. But we all got along well. I mean, we had a couple from SOCRED nominees on the original council. And we'd go for lunch and that together. One guy was from the Trinity Western College, which I'm totally opposed to, but still, he was a nice person to be with, and he was a principled person you deal with. You don't have to shun them. And that's the part of society that gets me these days, where you gotta say you're with us or against us.
Things are quite polarized now, yeah. That's very true. Yeah.
You don't get anywhere that way. What you do, you get what happens in the U.S. But anyway, so I've had a lot of experience, the college, the Canadian Teachers Federation. I've been to international conferences in Berlin, Lagos in Nigeria, Jakarta in Indonesia, Washington in Washington.
Did that international experience have any impact on teachers locally? Like, did teachers get involved in international issues at all?
Not very much, no. But what it did is gave people from, well, Canada was often viewed in a more positive way than U.S., even way back then. It was interesting because, and my summary is that Americans came in and said, do this. Canadians came in and said, how can we help you do what you want? And there's a big difference. The Americans know what you need to do. We don't, but we'll help you do what you want to do. Maybe that's an exaggeration, because I'm sure there are Americans who do it the other way. But that's not the perception that many
Yeah,
have.
there's different sorts of people, all sorts of places. So yeah, you can find them all.
Yeah. No, another one was Melbourne, Australia. Anyway, so we would, I would get my registration paid by the BCTF, but the rest I paid. All the travel and that. So we got to see a lot of places. Like the only ice skating rink in a hotel in West Africa. Believe it?
It's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Anything else just before we wrap up, because we're almost at an hour? Anything else that you wanted to share about your time with the GVTA, or something about teaching in Victoria that...
Well, the pension campaign was a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that strike. I think the premier of the day, W.A.C. Bennett, didn't believe it would happen. And I know in the 72 election, when the Barrett government got elected, it was quite a surprise to some.
I understand teachers were pretty active in that election campaign.
Oh, very.
Yeah.
That's what kept me away from finishing my thesis.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
It took a lot of time. And the BCTF had set money aside to have a campaign. And two teachers, one from Victoria, Byron Barker, and I forget the woman's name. She was a New Westminster teacher.
Okay.
And I believe they were members of the Social Credit Party. And they got a court decision to seal the funds.
Oh, really?
So they couldn't be spent. So that did it. So then a group of us met, rented a hotel room that was then called the Rembrandt on Davie Street in Vancouver. And some BCTF staff came too, including Jim Kearney, and set up an organization called the Teachers Political Action Committee.
Oh, yeah.
And then we set out information, and I think we may have bought the mailing address from the BCTF. I'm not sure if we did that. Anyway, we found a way to communicate with people.
Right.
I remember driving around the province and stopping at different towns and handing out stuff to local presidents if they happened to be around in the summer. But it was basically my holiday. Yeah, so that was, that was pretty active time.
Yeah, totally.
And that was because of the pension issue, because they made such a shambles of it, the government had. So that was a big issue. Yeah, and then later on, Al Blakey set up another Teachers Political Action Committee too, but it didn't manage to do very much. I forget which election it was. I was technically involved. Theoretically, I was vice president or co-chair or something of the TPAC. It was fun.
Do you recall if we were ever involved in trustee elections during your time?
Not really.
No, right?
Well,
okay.
Can't remember. I don't remember.
Okay, because I know, when we started in 2008 was the first time that we endorsed candidates in my teaching memory, but I'm just curious if there was a something that went back further when we might have.
All we could do is tell people what people had done and make up their own mind.
Yeah.
I don't recall any endorsed candidates.
Right, okay.
Doesn't always work either.
That's true of all elections. The people you endorse might not do the things you were hoping.
That's for sure.
Definitely.
No, it's a real problem. Yeah.
Yep, it is indeed. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap up because we're just about at an hour. Thank you so much, Bill, for
it's been fun. I'm not sure I've
chat.
told you a lot about the GVTA.
Oh no, we got some good stories in there.
Yeah.